All right, today, all things pec, how to grow juicy double Ds your girl's jealous of. Kind of the general theme I'll go about these muscles is understanding what it does first, kind of origin, insertion, muscle action. So with the pec, insertion is gonna be the same across all regions of the pec. It's gonna insert on our arm right here. So greater tubercle would be like the nerd term. And then the origin is gonna be a few different spots. So we have the clavicular, we have sternal, and then we're gonna have costal or abdominal, whatever you'll see on like Kin Hub, anatomy, textbooks, whatever. So don't get too nerdy with it. Just kind of understand, we have some different regions that kind of go through here. They all insert right at this point. So generally, action of the pec is gonna be adduction, so bringing our arm closer to midline. The more clavicular upper fibers are gonna do more flexion. It's about 90 degrees, so when I do this, I'm gonna feel my pec fire a lot right there, upper portion. And then actually the pec too, these lower fibers will do some shoulder extension. That's why you'll hop on some of these lat pull-down machines and it'll say like muscles worked and you'll see pec on there for some reason. So it's gonna do a little bit of shoulder extension with the lat. Clavicular region is gonna do some shoulder flexion. Mainly what we're gonna focus on is gonna be shoulder adduction. Generally for the pec, we also are gonna want to really focus on arm path being more adducted, so closer to the body. So what I don't want is to be elbows flared right here. Right, that's still gonna train our pec, but for it's gonna be a little bit less range of motion, so you can see my elbow as I kind of track in. I can get it further behind me. I can get a little bit more of a stretch here. I can get a little bit more leverage on my pec. Also, people with shoulder issues or people who are delt dominant are gonna tend to press like that. And one of the easiest fixes for them is bringing the arm path a little bit tighter. So here, loading a little bit more structure than function. I will do another video on talking about like pressing on shoulder pain, but here, a little more structure versus function. Here, a little bit more leverage towards the action of the pec or the function of the pec. Exercise selection for pecs. Most of our work, we're probably gonna wanna skew more towards like mid-range exercises. So the most loadable exercise we can do for our pec, this is gonna be like a lot of machine pressing, even like looking at like a Smith machine or dumbbell presses, things that are gonna be loading us where we're strongest. For most of your pec work, focus on mid-range. We'll also go over short position and lengthen position. But for any muscle group, typically, if we're gonna be prioritizing most of our workload, it's gonna be in that mid-range where it's most loadable. We know mechanical tension is gonna be the leading driver of hypertrophy, so we wanna be in positions where we can get the most mechanical tension put through the muscle. So pec, a lot of mid-range work. We'll go cover short position, lengthen position. If you're somebody who has trouble connecting to your pecs or you have trouble like feeling your pecs, we're usually gonna start with something that's more short position in nature. Not anything special about it, just to help us feel it better, help us connect to it better. We can carry that over into our mid-range work. Talking about like more compound exercises in nature, so like dumbbell pressing will get shit on a lot, like Smith machine pressing will get shit on a lot because either it's hardest or weakest, or it's gonna be like a less ideal arm path. So a Smith machine is gonna be a more abducted arm path, pec deck is gonna be a more abducted arm path. Doesn't make it bad. Where those things are gonna win is the Smith machine's gonna have a really high ceiling for loadability, so we're kind of gonna build the engine of our CNS. It's gonna probably improve our output on machines like this. So if I get stronger on the Smith machine, if I get stronger on a barbell press, if I get stronger on a dumbbell press, those are all pretty, they all have a pretty high ceiling in terms of absolute loadability. It's probably gonna carry over, help us get more output here, where we are more externally stabilized, where we are able to train our pecs closer to mechanical failure. So don't fully discredit that. There's definitely a place for it. And as far as the pec deck goes, I'll cover more of why that's not an issue when we get over there. So when it comes to pressing, we have to understand too, our pecs sit on the rib cage, so our rib cage position and maintaining a stable rib cage is gonna matter a little bit. So I don't wanna be stuck in this like chest down position. If I'm stuck with my chest kind of collapsed right here, I'm gonna get a very delt dominant press. So I wanna get into a nice neutral sternum position, so think sternum, kind of middle of the chest right here. We don't want it down, and we also don't want it like overly flared. We're gonna get it to neutral, we're gonna keep it there, keep it stable. So as I'm pressing, I don't wanna be moving it around a lot. Stable position, going back to the arm path I just mentioned, we want the arms to be slightly tucked, so I don't wanna be out here. I don't wanna be here, about 45 degrees, maybe a little bit less. When it comes to training different portions of the chest, there's an extent, or there's gonna be a point, maybe if you're a super advanced trainee, if you're like a professional bodybuilder, where you do wanna kind of go aim small, miss small, but for the most part, we're gonna get hypertrophy for the most part across our entire pec. So even if I'm training a more horizontal press or a more like incline press, I'm still gonna grow my whole pec. I'm not gonna be down to like the very individual granular level, only training my upper pec or only training my sternal fibers or only training my costal fibers. Like, we're kind of hitting everything. But if we do want to bias like a more clavicular pec or more like sternal pec, we do want to look at the arm path. So here, this is going to be more of like an incline or more of an upward arcing press. So we can see my arm path here is going to be kind of coming across my body at an upward angle. So I'm probably going to be hitting more of this clavicular part of my pec right here. Versus if I move the seat up, and I can, on this machine, I can mimic a more horizontal path right here. So now, for me, maybe about here. That's pretty horizontal. So I'm not saying on this machine that we should be messing around with that to different portions, but I'm just saying, like whether I'm here or whether I'm here, I'm still gonna be training my entire pec. But if I wanna focus on more sternal fibers or more like upper pec, I do wanna be a little bit more intentional about that arm path. But as mentioned, regional hypertrophy does occur when we do different arm paths. So if I do like a more upward arching arm path or do something that's more like shoulder flexion dominant, or if I do something that's going to be more like costal pec, I can get regional hypertrophy in those regions, but I'm still going to train my entire pec. And it's not like if I do an incline press, I'm only training clavicular pec. Regardless of the press I'm doing, I'm probably going to be training my entire pec, but we can get a little bit more granular with the arm path if we need to. All right, so talking about a more shortened pec, what does our pec do? Let's cover that again. Our pec does adduction, so it brings our arm closer to midline. So for a short position exercise, we're going to be hardest, where we're like most contracted right here. This cable fly, it's going to be more of a out to in. So when I'm in this fully contracted position, let's have the longest lever. I can actually go a little bit longer with this, a little bit wider, I mean. So when I'm here, it's directly pulling me into abduction, so I'm most resistant in adduction, right? So it's gonna feel easiest right here, the hardest right here. So if I have someone who has trouble feeling my pecs, I'm gonna start with something like this, pause in the contraction, get some blood pumped into my pecs. So right now, I can really feel my pecs. Again, you can watch my muscle connection video. It's not super important, but it is important that we can feel our pecs. So one, if we can't feel our pecs, we're probably executing exercises incorrectly. Also, try and tell them head that it doesn't matter if they can feel their pecs or not. They're gonna say, fuck you. Now, I mentioned on the machine over there that we do want to be in a more adducted arm path most of the time. We're not in the ideal arm path for pec, but we're still training pec. We're still like isolating pec the most, so we're taking out a lot of tricep, taking out a lot of delt, getting purely this adduction resistance. So although there's a trade-off there with the arm path, it's still a really good way to isolate the pec. If we kind of follow this cam right here, if I follow it to about this point, now as I go back, it's gonna be resisting me in this direction. So when I am most abducted away, it is now pulling me back towards midline. So it's pulling me into a full stretch. Visualize that for a second. So this is gonna be most challenging in the lengthened position. I'm gonna make sure that our sternum is in a neutral position. So I don't wanna be here, then I don't wanna be here. Neutral position. I want my hands to be in line with my arms and my pecs. So pec, elbow, hand, generally straight line. Now I'm challenging purely adduction of the pec. Exercises that you should never do for pecs. There really isn't that many I'm gonna be a stickler on, but this Sven press has to go. What do the pecs do? Let's cover that again. What do the pecs do? Adduction, brings arm closer to midline, and even the clavicular will do shoulder flexion. If I go here, and I drop these, they're going straight down. So they're not resisting adduction at all. It is gonna resist shoulder flexion a little bit, so maybe I'm stimulating a little bit of clavicular pec, but even at that, it's isometric. And we know isometrics with 5 pounds of weight is probably not gonna cut it in terms of hypertrophy. So if we're gonna waste time doing that, let's just pick something that's gonna be more beneficial as far as stimulus for time reward.